The atmospheric processors were acting up again, and Marcus Chin found himself crawling through maintenance shafts at 3 in the morning, muttering colorful curses that would have made his grandmother box his ears. Nexus Prime was supposed to be a state-of-the-art space station, but like everything else humanity built, it had a tendency to break down at the worst possible moments. Engineering to control, Marcus spoke into his comm unit, his voice echoing in the narrow shaft. I've found the problem with Sector 7's climate control. Looks like the thermal regulators are shot. Again. Copy that, Marcus. How long for repairs? Came the tired voice of the night shift supervisor. Marcus examined the fried circuitry with his headlamp, noting the telltale signs of cascade failure. Give me 2 hours. Maybe 3 if I can't find the replacement parts in storage. He backed out of the shaft and stood up, stretching his aching back. At 28, he was too young to feel this old, but working maintenance on a space station would age anyone prematurely. His dark hair was perpetually messy from crawling through tight spaces, and his olive skin bore the pale undertone common to those who spent too much time under artificial lighting. The corridor he emerged into was one of the station's lesser-used passages, dimly lit and rarely patrolled. It was here that he first saw her, and the sight made him stop dead in his tracks. She was huddled against the wall in what appeared to be an alcove designed for emergency equipment. Even in the poor lighting, her alien nature was unmistakable. Her skin had an ethereal, pale blue luminescence that seemed to pulse faintly with her heartbeat. Silver-white hair cascaded past her shoulders in an intricate braid, and when she looked up at his approach, her eyes were the color of Arctic ice, startling in their intensity. But what struck him most was how cold she appeared to be. Her slender frame was shaking, arms wrapped tightly around herself. She wore what looked like ceremonial clothing, beautiful but utterly impractical for the station's climate-controlled environment. The fabric was gossamer thin, clearly designed for a much warmer world. "Hey," Marcus said softly, not wanting to startle her. "Are you okay?" She looked up at him with those piercing blue eyes, and he could see wariness there, but also desperate need. When she spoke, her voice was melodic, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, but with an underlying accent he couldn't place. I am cold," she admitted, the words seeming to cost her effort. "The station's climate is harsh for my kind during the cosmic storms." Marcus frowned. Cosmic storms? Then it clicked. Oh, right. The solar flare activity. It's been interfering with environmental systems all week. He looked at her more closely, noting the way her lips had taken on a slightly darker blue hue. "You're hypothermic." Without thinking, he shrugged out of his work jacket. It wasn't much, just a standard-issue engineering coat with reinforced shoulders and multiple pockets, but it was warm from his body heat and insulated against temperature extremes. "Here," he said, stepping forward and draping it around her shoulders. "This should help." The moment the jacket settled around her, something extraordinary happened. Her eyes widened dramatically, and she went perfectly still. The shivering stopped immediately, but not, Marcus realized, because of the warmth. There was something else, something in her expression that made his stomach flutter with sudden nervousness. You gave me your protective covering," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder and something that sounded almost like awe. "It's just a jacket," Marcus said, confused by her reaction. "You looked cold." She stood slowly, the jacket dwarfing her smaller frame. Now that she was upright, he could see she was probably 5.5 feet tall, with a build that suggested both grace and hidden strength. The ceremonial clothing she wore beneath his jacket was indeed beautiful, worked with patterns that seemed to shift and change in the light. "What is your name?" she asked, her voice now carrying a formality that hadn't been there before. "Marcus. Marcus Chen. I'm an engineer here on the station." He gestured vaguely at his tool belt and the maintenance shaft behind him. "What's yours?" "I am Zara of the Northern Wind Clan," she replied, and there was definitely ceremony in the way she said it. "And you, Marcus Chen, have just claimed me as your bonded mate." Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" The ritual of covering, Zara continued, clutching his jacket closer around herself. By providing protection when I was vulnerable, by placing your own garment upon my body, you have declared your intention to bond with me according to the ancient ways of my people. Whoa, hold on, Marcus said, raising his hands. I just gave you a jacket because you were cold. There wasn't any ritual or claiming or anything like that. It was just basic human decency. Zara tilted her head, studying him with those impossibly blue eyes. Your kind does not practice the ritual of covering. Well, we share clothes sometimes, but it doesn't mean we're bonded or whatever. It just means we're being nice. For a moment, she looked confused, almost disappointed. Then her expression shifted to something more determined. Perhaps your people have forgotten the old ways, but the bond has been forged nonetheless. I am yours now, Marcus Chen, as you are mine. I'm really not, Marcus said weakly. Look, Zara, you seem like a lovely person, but there's been a misunderstanding. I'm not looking for a bonded mate or anything like that. I was just trying to help. Zara stepped closer, and he caught a scent like winter pine in starlight. The bond is not something that can be undone by mere words, she said softly. You showed me kindness when I was in need. You protected me with your own covering. By the laws of my people, we are now linked until death. Marcus felt a growing sense of panic. But I didn't know about your laws. Doesn't that matter? Ignorance does not invalidate truth, Zara replied, though not unkindly. But do not fear, Marcus Chen. I will be a worthy mate. I will protect you from harm, share in your burdens, and stand by your side through all challenges. As if to demonstrate her point, another station worker rounded the corner at that moment, someone Marcus recognized from the loading docks. The man took one look at Marcus standing close to the obviously alien woman wearing his jacket and smirked. Well, Chen. Working late or playing late? Before Marcus could respond, Zara moved. It was like watching liquid mercury flow. One moment she was standing beside him, the next she was between Marcus and the other man, her posture radiating unmistakable threat despite her smaller size. You will show respect when addressing my bonded mate, she said, her melodic voice now carrying an edge that could cut steel. Or you will learn why the Valkyrie are feared across the galaxy. The dock worker's smirk vanished immediately. Sorry. Didn't mean anything by it. He hurried past them, shooting nervous glances over his shoulder. Marcus stared at Zara as she turned back to him, her expression immediately softening. Valkyrie? He asked. My people, she confirmed. We are warriors, but also protectors of those we love. I will not allow others to speak disrespectfully of you. You can't just threaten people, Marcus protested. This is a peaceful station. I will protect what is mine, Zara said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. It is my nature. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, feeling overwhelmed. This was supposed to be a simple maintenance call, not, whatever this was. Look, we need to figure this out. There has to be some way to undo this bond thing. Why would you wish to undo it? Zara asked, and for the first time, he heard uncertainty in her voice. Have I displeased you somehow? The honest vulnerability in her question made his chest tighten. No, you haven't displeased me. You seem amazing, actually. But we don't even know each other. And I can't have you threatening people or following me around or... I will learn your customs, Zara interrupted earnestly. I will adapt to your ways. But I cannot simply stop being bonded to you, Marcus Chen. The connection is real, whether you acknowledge it or not. Marcus looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something that made his protests die in his throat. Beneath the alien features and the talk of bonds and rituals, she was just a woman far from home, alone and trying to make sense of a confusing situation. Just like he was. Okay, he said finally. Let's figure this out together. But first, let me finish this repair job. Then we can talk properly. Zara nodded, clutching his jacket around herself like armor. I will wait for you. You don't have to wait. I'm sure you have somewhere to be. I have nowhere else, she admitted quietly. And I will not leave my bonded mate unprotected. As Marcus gathered his tools and prepared to crawl back into the maintenance shaft, he couldn't help but wonder what exactly he'd gotten himself into. One act of simple kindness, and suddenly he had a self-appointed alien bodyguard who thought they were married. His life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. And as he watched Zara settle gracefully against the wall to wait for him, her ice-blue eyes never leaving his face, he realized that complicated might not necessarily be a bad thing. 3 days. It had been 3 days since Marcus had given Zara his jacket, and she hadn't left his side for more than a few minutes at a time. She waited outside his quarters while he slept, followed him to the mess hall for meals, and somehow managed to make herself useful during his repair work despite having no engineering training. The strangest part wasn't her constant presence, it was how natural it was beginning to feel. You look like hell, Finn O'Brien observed as Marcus slumped into a chair at their usual table in the recreation lounge. Finn was Marcus's closest friend on the station, a botanist with an infectious grin and an unfortunate tendency to point out uncomfortable truths. Thanks, Marcus muttered, rubbing his tired eyes. Just having some adjustment issues. With your shadow? Finn glanced meaningfully toward the entrance where Zara stood, alert and watchful. She'd taken to scanning every room Marcus entered, cataloging exits and potential threats with military precision. She's been glued to your hip since Tuesday. What's the story there? Marcus sighed and launched into an explanation of the jacket incident and its unexpected consequences. Finn listened with growing amusement, occasionally glancing at Zara with newfound respect. So let me get this straight, Finn said when Marcus finished. You accidentally married an alien warrior princess by being polite. I didn't marry anyone, Marcus protested. And she's not a princess. Have you seen the way she carries herself? That's royal bearing if I've ever seen it. Finn leaned back in his chair, grinning. You know, most guys have to work a lot harder to find a girlfriend who thinks they're worth protecting. She's not my girlfriend either. Does she know that? Before Marcus could answer, a familiar voice interrupted their conversation. Marcus? Is that you? Both men turned to see Jana Holloway approaching their table. Marcus's ex-girlfriend looked as polished as ever, her blonde hair perfectly styled despite the recycled air, her uniform crisp and professional. She worked in station administration and had broken up with Marcus 6 months ago, citing his lack of ambition and tendency to get his hands dirty. Hi, Jana, Marcus said, immediately feeling awkward. They'd managed to avoid each other pretty successfully since the breakup. I heard you were back on the day shift, Jana continued, sliding uninvited into an empty chair. I was hoping we could talk. I've been thinking about us, and I wonder if maybe we were too hasty. She never got to finish the sentence. Zara appeared beside their table with the fluid grace of a predator, her ice-blue eyes fixed on Jana with unmistakable hostility. The temperature in the immediate vicinity seemed to drop several degrees. You will step away from my bonded mate, Zara said, her melodic voice carrying an undertone that made several nearby conversations stop. Jana blinked in surprise, taking in Zara's exotic appearance and protective stance. Excuse me. This female seeks to claim what is mine, Zara continued, addressing Marcus directly. Should I remove her, or will you handle this challenge yourself? Challenge? Jana sputtered. What is she talking about? Marcus stood quickly, placing himself between the two women. Zara, Jana isn't challenging anything. We were just talking. She speaks of your past mating rituals and suggests resuming them, Zara replied, her gaze never leaving Jana. Among my people, this would be considered a direct challenge to the bonded mate's claim. Past mating rituals? Finn echoed, barely suppressing laughter. We dated, Marcus explained quickly. Briefly. It's over now. It doesn't have to be, Jana said, recovering her composure but eyeing Zara warily. "Marcus, who is this person, and why is she talking about bonding and mates?" "I am Zara of the Northern Wind clan," Zara replied before Marcus could speak. "Valkyrie warrior and bonded mate to Marcus Chen. And you are trespassing on claimed territory." The recreation lounge had gone notably quiet, with other patrons pretending not to watch the unfolding drama. Marcus felt his face burning with embarrassment. "Claimed territory?" Jana's voice rose an octave. "Marcus, what is she talking about?" "It's complicated," Marcus began, but Zara stepped closer to Jana, her posture radiating menace. "Nothing complicated," Zara said softly. "He chose me. I chose him. Bond is sealed. You are no longer relevant to his life." For a moment, Marcus thought Jana might actually challenge the alien woman. Then survival instinct apparently kicked in, and she backed away from the table. "I can see you've moved on," Jana said stiffly. "Good luck with that, Marcus. You're going to need it." She left quickly, shooting dark looks over her shoulder. The lounge gradually returned to its normal noise level, though Marcus caught several people still glancing their way. "That was completely unnecessary," Marcus told Zara as they sat back down. "She was attempting to reclaim you," Zara replied matter-of-factly. "I protected what is mine. She wasn't trying to reclaim anything. And I'm not yours to protect." Zara tilted her head, studying him with those unsettling blue eyes. "You say this, yet you do not send me away. Why?" It was a good question, one Marcus had been avoiding thinking about too carefully. "I don't know," he admitted. "Perhaps," Finn interjected, "it's because she's gorgeous, devoted, and could probably bench press a shuttlecraft." "Not helping," Marcus muttered. "Actually, I might be." Finn pulled out his personal tablet and began tapping the screen. "I've been doing some research on Valkyrie culture since our conversation yesterday. Want to know what I found? Do I have a choice?" "The Valkyrie are a warrior society from the Andorian system," Finn read from his tablet. "They're known for their fierce loyalty, advanced combat skills, and, oh, this is interesting, their highly ritualized bonding practices." Marcus felt a sinking sensation in his stomach. What kind of rituals? According to this, the ritual of covering is one of their most sacred bonding ceremonies. When a Valkyrie accepts protective covering from a potential mate, it signifies trust, vulnerability, and acceptance of the bond. The ritual is considered irreversible once completed. Irreversible? Marcus echoed weakly. Zara nodded solemnly. The bond can only be dissolved by death or by mutual agreement to undergo the severing ritual, which is unpleasant for both parties. How unpleasant? Marcus asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know. It involves a form of psychic separation that leaves both individuals emotionally hollow for several years, Finn read. Many who undergo the severing never form meaningful relationships again. Marcus stared at Zara, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. "You didn't mention that part." "I hoped you would come to accept the bond naturally," she admitted. "The severing is not something I would choose willingly. But if I insisted?" Something flickered in her eyes, pain, perhaps, or fear. "If you truly wished it, I would not force the bond upon you. But I would ask that you give us time to know each other first. To understand what we might have together." The vulnerability in her voice made Marcus's chest tighten. He found himself studying her face, noting the delicate bone structure, the way her silver hair caught the artificial light, the exotic beauty that was entirely alien yet somehow familiar. "What would that look like?" he asked quietly. "Getting to know each other?" Zara's expression brightened immediately. "I would learn your customs, your preferences, your dreams. I would share mine with you. We would discover if our souls are truly compatible, as the bond suggests. And in the meantime, I would continue to protect you, to stand by your side, to be your partner in all things." She paused, then added with touching honesty, I would try not to threaten your former mates or cause diplomatic incidents. Finn snorted with laughter. I like her. You're not the one whose life just got turned upside down, Marcus pointed out. Maybe it needed turning upside down, Finn replied. When was the last time you were excited about anything? When did you last take a chance on something that might change your life? Marcus wanted to argue, but the words stuck in his throat. The truth was, he'd been coasting for months, maybe years. Going through the motions of living without really engaging with life. And then Zara had appeared, bringing color and intensity and possibility into his gray routine. There's something else, Finn continued, scrolling through his research. According to this, Valkyrie mate bonds are supposed to be, well, pretty incredible. Enhanced emotional connection, shared strength, that sort of thing. Some humans who've bonded with Valkyrie report it as the most fulfilling relationship experience of their lives. Some humans have done this before? Marcus asked. A few. Mostly diplomats and traders who spent extended time in Valkyrie space. The cultural database has several case studies. Marcus looked at Zara, who was watching him with barely concealed hope. What do you want from this? He asked her directly. A true partner, she replied without hesitation. Someone who sees me as more than just a warrior or a guardian. Someone who values my strength but also my gentleness. Someone who will stand with me against the challenges of life. And you think I could be that person? I know you are good, Zara said simply. You showed kindness to a stranger without expecting anything in return. You work to make life better for others on this station. You treat your friend with loyalty and affection. She gestured toward Finn. These are the qualities of a worthy mate. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the station's climate control. What if I'm not brave enough? I'm not a warrior like you. Bravery comes in many forms, Zara replied. The courage to be kind, to help others, to face each day with purpose, these are warrior qualities too. Finn cleared his throat. Not to interrupt this touching moment, but you two are being watched. Marcus glanced around and noticed that several station personnel were indeed paying attention to their conversation, some with curiosity, others with obvious concern. Having an alien warrior claiming territorial rights over a human engineer was probably generating quite a bit of gossip. We should continue this somewhere more private, Marcus decided. My quarters. Zara nodded eagerly, then caught herself. If that would be appropriate by your customs. It's fine, Marcus assured her, standing up. We need to talk without an audience. As they left the recreation lounge together, Finn called after them, Marcus. For what it's worth, I think you'd be crazy to let her go. Walking through the corridors with Zara at his side, Marcus found himself hyper-aware of her presence. The way she moved with fluid grace, the protective way she scanned their surroundings, the subtle alien scent of winter pine that seemed to follow her. Zara, he said as they approached his quarters, if we do this, if we try to make this bond work, what happens to your life? Your clan, your duties as a warrior. She was quiet for a moment before answering. I am currently between assignments. My last posting ended, poorly. I came to this station seeking new opportunities, but I have found something far more valuable. What happened with your last assignment? I was assigned to protect a diplomat during trade negotiations. I became too attached to my duty. When the assignment ended, I found it difficult to leave. Her voice grew soft. I have always been a warrior first, but lately, I find myself wanting something more. A purpose beyond duty and honor. Marcus stopped walking and turned to face her. You were lonely. Yes, she admitted. Very lonely. He studied her face, seeing past the alien features to the woman beneath. So was I. Something passed between them in that moment, a recognition that went deeper than cultural differences or bonding rituals. Two people who had been drifting, suddenly finding anchor in each other. All right, Marcus said, making a decision that felt both terrifying and inevitable. Let's see where this goes. But we do it properly, getting to know each other, understanding what we both want, building something real. Zara's smile was like sunrise after a long night. I would like that very much, Marcus Chin. As they entered his quarters together, Marcus realized that his life had already changed irrevocably. The question now wasn't whether to accept the bond, but whether he was brave enough to embrace everything it might become. 2 weeks had passed since Marcus and Zara had agreed to explore their bond properly, and Marcus was beginning to understand why the Valkyrie considered their relationship sacred. The connection between them was unlike anything he'd ever experienced, not just the obvious attraction, but something deeper. He found himself attuned to her moods, aware of her presence even when she wasn't in sight, and increasingly protective of her in return. They were sharing lunch in the observation deck's small cafe when everything changed. The sunset simulation is beautiful, Zara murmured, watching the holographic display that cycled through various planetary sunsets. Today it showed the twin suns of Kepler 442b painting artificial clouds in shades of amber and rose. Wait until you see a real Earth sunset, Marcus replied, then caught himself. I mean, if you ever wanted to visit Earth with me sometime. The tentative way he'd phrased it made Zara smile. Over the past 2 weeks, Marcus had gradually become more comfortable with the idea of their future together, but he still approached it carefully, as if afraid to assume too much. I would like that very much, she said, reaching across the small table to touch his hand. The simple contact sent warmth racing up his arm, another aspect of the bond that was taking some adjustment. Zara of the Northern Wind Clan. The voice that spoke her name was deep, resonant, and carried an authority that made every conversation in the cafe stop. Marcus looked up to see a figure that could only be another Valkyrie, and the sight made his blood run cold. Where Zara was elegant and ethereal, this newcomer was built like a living weapon. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, with the same pale blue luminescent skin as Zara but marked with intricate silver tattoos that spoke of military rank and achievement. His hair was darker than Zara's, a steel gray that matched his cold eyes, and he wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor that managed to look both ancient and technologically advanced. Zara's entire body went rigid, her hand tightening on Marcus's. Vex Karath, she said, her voice carefully neutral. I did not expect to see you here. Clearly, Vex replied, his gaze moving dismissively over Marcus before returning to Zara. Your clan sent me to retrieve you. Your sabbatical has gone on long enough. I am not on sabbatical, Zara replied, standing slowly. Marcus rose with her, acutely aware that every other patron in the cafe was now watching their confrontation with fascination and growing alarm. I am bonded. Vex's expression shifted to something between amusement and disgust. To this human. He looked at Marcus as if he were some particularly unimpressive specimen in a laboratory. I was told of your infatuation, but I assumed the reports were exaggerated. It is not infatuation, Zara said, moving slightly in front of Marcus. It is a true bond, properly formed according to our customs. Our customs require bonding with worthy partners, Vex replied coldly. Look at him, Zara. He is soft, weak, untested in battle. What could such a creature possibly offer a warrior of your caliber? Marcus felt his temper flare. I'm standing right here, and I can speak for myself. Vex's attention focused on him with uncomfortable intensity. Indeed? Then speak, little human. Tell me what makes you worthy of a Valkyrie mate. The challenge in the alien warrior's voice was unmistakable, and Marcus suddenly understood that this was about more than just Zara's choice of partner. There was something personal in Vex's hostility, a possessiveness that made Marcus's protective instincts surge. I don't have to justify my relationship to you, Marcus replied, surprised by the steadiness of his own voice. Zara makes her own choices. Does she? Vex stepped closer, and Marcus had to fight the urge to back away. The alien warrior radiated menace like heat from a forge. Or has she been deceived by human weakness masquerading as kindness? Enough, Zara interjected, her voice carrying a command authority that made several nearby humans instinctively straighten. "Vex, you have no claim on me. Our betrothal was arranged by our families, never consummated, and dissolved when I chose another path." Marcus blinked. "Betrothal?" Vex smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "She didn't tell you? How interesting." "Yes, human, Zara was promised to me since childhood. We were to bond upon her return from military service." "That was before," Zara said firmly, though Marcus caught a note of something, guilt, regret, in her voice. "Before I understood what I truly wanted from life." "What you wanted," Vex repeated mockingly, "or what this human made you believe you wanted through his alien influence." "My influence?" Marcus couldn't keep the incredulity out of his voice. "I gave her a jacket because she was cold. That's literally all I did." "Yes," Vex said, his tone growing dangerous. "You took advantage of an ancient ritual to trap a warrior into bonding with you. Very convenient." The accusation hit Marcus like a physical blow. He looked at Zara, seeing the conflict in her ice-blue eyes, and suddenly doubted everything. "Is that what happened? Did I trap you somehow?" "No," Zara said immediately, but there was pain in her voice. "Marcus, you gave me a choice when I had none. You showed me kindness without expecting anything in return. That is not entrapment, that is exactly why the bond formed." "Pretty words," Vex said dismissively. "But words cannot change what you are, Zara. You are a warrior, bred for battle, trained for leadership. This human offers you nothing but mediocrity and weakness." "He offers me partnership," Zara replied, her voice growing stronger. "Respect, gentleness, a future built on choice rather than obligation." Vex laughed, the sound harsh and mocking. "Partnership? You mean servitude to inferior genetics and primitive culture? How long before you grow bored of playing house with this soft creature?" Marcus felt something snap inside him. "Okay, that's enough. I don't know what your problem is, but you don't get to come here and insult either of us." "My problem," Vex said, turning the full force of his attention on Marcus, "is that you have stolen what belongs to me." "Zara doesn't belong to anyone," Marcus shot back. "She's not property to be stolen or claimed. Isn't she?" Vex's smile turned predatory. "Tell me, human, what will you do when she faces real danger? When enemies come for her, will you protect her? When she needs a warrior's strength at her side, will you provide it?" Marcus felt the weight of every eye in the cafe on him. He was aware of his human limitations, his lack of combat training, his complete inexperience with the kind of threats that someone like Zara might face. But he was also aware of something else, the fierce protectiveness that had been growing in him over the past weeks, the absolute certainty that he would face any danger to keep her safe. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said quietly. Vex studied him for a long moment, then nodded as if confirming something to himself. "Then you won't object to proving it?" "Vex, no," Zara said urgently. "The right of challenge," Vex continued, ignoring her protest. "Combat trial to determine worthiness. If this human truly believes he can protect you, let him demonstrate it." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "Combat trial?" "Single combat," Vex explained with obvious satisfaction. "No weapons, no assistance, no mercy. If you can defeat me, I will acknowledge your bond and leave you in peace. If you cannot..." He shrugged eloquently. "And if I refuse? Then you prove you are unworthy, and Zara returns with me to fulfill her true destiny." Marcus looked at Zara, seeing the conflict and fear in her expression. He realized that she was caught between two impossible choices, watching him fight a battle he couldn't win, or abandoning the bond they'd built together. "There has to be another way," Marcus said. "There is no other way," Vex replied. "This is Valkyrie law. I invoke the right of challenge." The cafe had gone dead silent. Marcus was acutely aware that whatever he decided in the next few moments would determine not just his future with Zara, but possibly his future in general. Fighting Vex was clearly suicide. The alien warrior was bigger, stronger, and trained for combat in ways Marcus couldn't imagine. But the alternative was losing Zara, and that was unthinkable. "Marcus, please," Zara whispered. "You don't understand what you would be facing." He looked at her, seeing the woman who had brought purpose and joy back into his life, who had chosen him despite having every reason not to. The woman who made him want to be better than he was. "I understand enough," he said quietly. Then, louder, addressing Vex directly, "I accept your challenge." Zara's face went pale, but Vex smiled with genuine pleasure. "Excellent. The trial will take place tomorrow at sunset, in the station's main arena. Standard rules: combat continues until one participant yields or cannot continue. Or dies," Zara added bitterly. "Or dies," Vex agreed cheerfully. "Though I have no particular desire to kill your pet human, Zara. Humiliating him should be sufficient." As Vex turned to leave, he paused and looked back at Marcus. "You have courage, I'll grant you that. Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. It will make your defeat more interesting." When the alien warrior had gone, leaving a buzz of excited conversation in his wake, Zara turned to Marcus with anguish in her eyes. "Why?" she asked simply. Marcus reached for her hands, finding them trembling slightly. "Because losing you isn't an option. Because you're worth fighting for, even if I lose." "You will lose," Zara said, tears gathering in her eyes. "Marcus, you don't understand. Vex is one of our finest warriors. He has never been defeated in single combat." "Then I'll be his first defeat," Marcus said with more confidence than he felt. "You'll be his first kill," Zara countered. "Humans are not built for this kind of combat." Marcus pulled her closer, feeling the familiar warmth of their bond. "Maybe not. But I'm not going to give up without trying. Will you help me?" Zara stared at him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "If you are determined to do this, then yes. I will teach you what I can." "But Marcus." Her voice broke slightly. "I cannot bear to lose you." "You won't," Marcus promised, hoping it was true. "We'll figure this out together." As they left the cafe, Marcus tried to ignore the whispers that followed them and the growing certainty that he had just signed his own death warrant. But when he looked at Zara, saw the mixture of fear and admiration in her eyes, he knew he'd made the only choice he could live with. Now he just had to make sure he lived long enough to enjoy it. The training began immediately. Zara led Marcus to one of the station's unused cargo bays, a large space that could accommodate the kind of movement their practice would require. She had changed from her usual elegant attire into form-fitting exercise gear that highlighted her athletic build and reminded Marcus just how physically superior she was to him. "First," Zara said, beginning to circle him with predatory grace, "you must understand that Valkyrie combat is not just about strength. It is about speed, strategy, and using your opponent's power against them." "Good thing," Marcus replied, watching her movements carefully, "because I'm definitely outclassed in the strength department." "You are outclassed in every department," Zara said bluntly, then softened her tone. "But that does not mean you cannot win. Vex is powerful, but he is also arrogant. He will expect you to fight like a human, with brute force and desperation." "How should I fight?" "Like a Valkyrie," Zara replied, suddenly lunging forward in a movement too fast for Marcus to follow. He found himself on the floor, staring up at the ceiling, before he even realized what had happened. "Lesson 1, Zara said, offering him a hand up. "Speed defeats strength if used correctly." For the next several hours, Zara put Marcus through a crash course in Valkyrie combat techniques. She taught him how to use an opponent's momentum against them, how to identify and exploit weaknesses in defensive postures, and most importantly, how to think tactically rather than emotionally during a fight. "Vex will try to anger you," she explained as they practiced grappling techniques. "He will insult you, threaten you, attempt to make you lose control. You must not let him succeed." "Easy for you to say," Marcus gasped, trying to break free from a hold that felt like being trapped in steel cables. You're not the one who's going to get pummeled tomorrow. I would take your place if I could, Zara said quietly, loosening her grip. The right of challenge cannot be transferred, but if it could. I know, Marcus said, catching his breath. But this is something I have to do. Not just for us, but for me. I need to know I can protect what matters to me. Zara studied his face in the dim cargo bay lighting. You have already proven that by accepting the challenge. Many would have simply let me go. Many would be idiots, Marcus replied, earning a small smile. They continued training until the early hours of the morning, when exhaustion finally forced them to stop. As they walked back to Marcus's quarters together, Zara suddenly stopped in the corridor. There is something you should know, she said quietly. About Vex and me. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Okay. We were childhood friends before we were betrothed. I cared for him once. Not as I care for you, but there were feelings there. Are you telling me this to make me feel better or worse? Marcus asked. I am telling you because you deserve the truth, Zara replied. And because I want you to understand that my choice to be with you was not made lightly. I gave up everything I knew, everything that was expected of me, because what we have is worth it. Marcus reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. Even if I lose tomorrow? Even then, Zara said firmly. But you will not lose. You sound very certain for someone who spent the evening explaining how outclassed I am. Zara smiled, and there was something fierce and proud in her expression. Because I know something Vex does not. What's that? You are not fighting just for yourself tomorrow. You are fighting for us, for our bond, for the future we want to build together. That gives you a strength he cannot match. As they reached his quarters, Marcus turned to face her fully. Zara, if something happens tomorrow. Nothing will happen, she interrupted firmly. But if it does, I want you to know that these past weeks have been the best of my life. Meeting you, getting to know you, falling in love with you, it's changed everything. Zara's eyes widened. You love me? Marcus realized he'd said it without thinking, but as the words hung in the air between them, he knew they were absolutely true. Yes. I love you, Zara of the Northern Wind clan. I love your strength and your gentleness, your fierce loyalty and your quiet vulnerability. I love the way you see the best in people and fight to protect it. Tears gathered in Zara's ice-blue eyes. And I love you, Marcus Chin. Your kindness, your courage, your willingness to face impossible odds for those you care about. You have given me something I never knew I wanted, a partner who sees me as more than just a warrior. They kissed then, in the empty corridor outside his quarters, and Marcus felt the bond between them strengthen and deepen. Whatever happened tomorrow, they had this moment, this certainty, this love that had grown from the simplest act of kindness. When they finally separated, Zara pressed her forehead against his. Win or lose tomorrow, we are bonded. Nothing Vex can do will change that. I'm planning to win, Marcus said softly. Good, Zara replied with a fierce smile. Because I have plans for our future, and they require you to be alive to enjoy them. As they entered his quarters together, Marcus tried to push aside his fear about the coming fight. He had love worth fighting for, a woman worth protecting, and a bond worth defending. He just hoped it would be enough.